Hey there! This is a pre-built PC from Origin, now owned by Corsair, and they decided to send one of these out so that we could independently review it. Now this is one of the top of the line models, it's an absolute beast, but how much will you expect to pay for a beast like this? We're gonna talk about everything from performance to value to just the raw price, my impressions of the build quality, the packaging, all in this video, and one light at the end of the tunnel. No matter how I decide to conclude this video, you'll have a chance to win this exact system. And again, it's totally decked out. I think there's a 3080 Ti in here, a 12900K, an absolute beast. We're gonna have info on how to enter the giveaway in the video description. But the first thing we should do is unwrap this thing, and I'm gonna tease you a bit because we're gonna cut straight to our sponsor segment. Stay with me. To get rid of that annoying Windows activation watermark, head on over to VIP SCD Key and purchase a Windows 10 Pro OEM key for a fraction of the price of retail. Just use a secure payment method like PayPal, enter your product key into your PC settings window, and say bye-bye to the watermark. And be sure to use our offer code SKGS for a sweet discount. Now, I feel the need to mention, my system here was shipped via crate, which you should probably not expect unless you order it for some reason. I don't even think you can unless it's a hardline rig. This here does not involve any custom cooling at all. There's no custom hardline tubing, and because of that, I think you're just gonna be able to ship it via ground, and that should save you some money because as of time of filming, you can get these shipped via ground for free. One of the first things you'll notice is this custom left side panel. I went for the generic logo just to show you what it could look like, but obviously you can personalize this, customize it however you want to make it your own. I think it starts at around $100. We'll talk about the price breakdown later in the video, but it is an option. Just wanted to throw that out there. It's a bit of an extra little thing you could toss in. If you're not totally sold on pre-builts, you can customize these a bit more than the average builder normally would. It does look like we've got a few easy packs on the inside of the rig, which is nice. It keeps the graphics card stable. If you have a large CPU tower cooler, that as well should be in place. Let's see, I think it's just one big easy pack actually. All right, and yeah, right off the bat, first impressions, very clean build. You can tell our Origin obviously knows what they're doing. They do this for a living, so expect cable management to be rather top-notch. I'm just gonna go ahead and read off the spec sheet that was sent to me in preparation for when this rig was to arrive. I noticed that there are a few discrepancies, however, so when I went through and priced these things out on PC Part Picker, I had to be very careful not to put the incorrect component with the wrong specification. That affects price pretty greatly. For example, they said that they were using a 5000T for the case. That's definitely not the case here, no pun intended. The 5000T is a very expensive chassis, and this one by comparison really isn't. This is a 5000X. I would have liked to have seen the D variant, which has the high airflow front panel, but it's fine. We have several fans in here. I think 7 LL, no, we have 9. 369 plus one at the rear, 10 QL IQ RGB fans. And I mean, that's a ton. I guess I'm not really too concerned about airflow if we have that many fans in here. But the case is definitely a lot cheaper, a lot more affordable. So if you wanted to build something like this, I recommend the X over the T. That's just my take on it. We do have the 12900K in here, which is the latest and greatest from Intel, 16 cores. They say it's paired with an Asus ROG Maximus Z690 Hero DDR5 board. That is not what's in here. Instead, this is an MSI Force DDR5 board? I think it's a Force DDR5 board. I might be wrong, but it's definitely DDR5 motherboard though. Z-series chipset, of course, paired with 32 gigs. Of course, they're DOM Plats, good old DOM Plats at 4800 megahertz, which I will note, this is not very high frequency memory by any means. Well, at least with respect to DDR5. For the graphics card, you'll find an NVIDIA RTX 3080 Ti Founders Edition model. This thing is an absolute beast. It doesn't really need an introduction, I think. 12 gigs of VRAM. Obviously, you can go with a 3090, but it doesn't really make as much sense from an MSRP perspective. You'll get double the VRAM, but most games don't really care about double the VRAM. For content creation purposes, that's possibly a use case scenario for it, but the 3080 Ti is probably the most expensive graphics card for gaming that actually sort of makes sense. Storage has a Corsair 1TB MP600 core Gen 4 NVMe SSD, which I'm assuming is under this top NVMe cover here on this board, and then we also have a 1TB 870 QVO series Samsung SSD. It's a 2.5-inch drive, which I imagine is behind the motherboard tray. Power supply is a Corsair RM850X, which is pretty much right in line with what NVIDIA recommends you use from a wattage perspective for a combination of hardware like this, so that makes sense. It's 80 plus gold PSU, so very efficient as well. Comes with a really good warranty, and you'll find Windows 11 Home loaded on the boot drive. Of course, that's going to be the MP600 core, because that's the faster of the drive, so you want to put your operating system on the faster drive. One thing I always like to check with pre-builds is cable management behind the motherboard tray. This is where you really see the quality, the difference between just a random quick build and a company that takes a lot of time in making things clean. Obviously, this is a bit, yeah, that's a bit cheating. We're gonna check inside there. Wow, okay, actually this is impressive. This is probably, yeah, this is definitely better than the job I would have done with all of these cables. Remember, you have so many fans in here, RGB connectivity, you have to be just super precise with where cables are being run. This is like the best cable management I've ever seen for a build this complex without going fully custom with it. This is truly impressive. And just to give you an idea of how many cables we're talking about here, we have 3 different hubs for 3 different things. So your fan hub here, where a lot of your fans are going to be connected, PWM control. You also have RGB here. This is an RGB hub. And then further down, you've got another hub with more RGB connectivity. So it's a lot. Having just one hub, I mean, the need for one just implies there's going to be more cables involved, but 3 of them, and for it to look this clean, this is top notch. Ooh, quick side note, I see some peel. Oh, yes. So satisfying. By the way, you will get a similar box with your system. It's gonna have all the extras in it, which is nice to see. Power cable, of course. We've got extra SSD trays. You've got SATA cables. You've got your Wi-Fi antenna. You've even got your barcode serial number for the motherboard in here. A few adapters for things like USB headers, your motherboard manual. What else? CPU size. It's actually pretty cool you get the socket cover, because if you want to store your components for later, this is always nice to have. And another thing worth pointing out, these 3 fans here beside the motherboard tray are all set to intake. So these are going to pull air in from the right side. You might not want to set this case against a wall or something. That's pretty easy to do when you have a left tempered glass panel and the right side is pretty much all covered. So keep that in mind. You'll have 3 fans that are pulling in air rather unobstructedly from the right side panel. You'll also have 3 pulling in from the front, although bear in mind we do have a tempered glass panel up front with ventilation along the sides of each. Not ideal, but it's still there. And then we'll have exhaust at the top for the AIO. Now when it comes to performance, it should be pretty black and white here. What to expect with a 3080 Ti combined with a 12900K is some of the best gaming performance you can currently buy on the market. We're scoring in TimeSpy higher than 98% of all submitted results. I think this in and of itself is enough to demonstrate how powerful this system is. But I threw a few games into the mix too, just to show you what this is capable of. I threw Shadow of the Tomb Raider at it, and in DX12 4K high settings with ray tracing enabled, you can see we're pegging around 100 FPS in each one of these scenes. Another gaming category folks might be interested in is racing, and for that I threw Dirt 5 at the system. Of course, as we can expect, the 3080 Ti is really picking up the slack here. Not that it necessarily needs to with such a powerful CPU in the mix as well, but this game will leverage the graphics card more than anything else in my experience, and we can also enable built-in ray tracing for this game and still keep frame rates around 100 FPS. I pegged 90 on average, 1% lows are stellar. This game looks incredible in 4K with the high preset. But in case you're not interested in DXR, we can disable that and our frame rate bumps up to well over 100. Again, if you want to drop this to maybe 1440p or especially 1080p, you could achieve close to 200 FPS or more with the right mix of in-game settings. This system all around is just ready to shred frames. It is an absolute beast, which is why I titled this video what I have, and you have so many different options, so many in-game settings to play with, and a lot of newer titles that you can really just allow it to flex its muscles a bit and experiment with different settings, see what looks right to you given the frame rate you're getting as well. And that's one of the propositions I've grown to respect about higher end builds. See, I was totally in the value department, especially when I was in college, just pinching pennies. I wasn't being sent anything for free, for review. And so anything I was buying out of pocket, it just had to make sense from a value perspective. 3080 Ti's, I mean, if they had these back when I was in college, there's no way I'd be buying this. It's just, it doesn't fit what I need, and it doesn't really make sense to spend this much on something when I'd be perfectly happy gaming in a lower resolution and, you know, with lower in-game settings. I don't need the crispiest looking 4K image to enjoy a game. That said, if you have something like this, you have the ability to play with in-game settings and toggle things that you normally wouldn't be able to with a lower end card. So you can get the right feel in-game, the right visuals. You can also stack tons of mods in certain games, and this card can shred through them no problem. Couple that with a 32 gigs of RAM in here, it works. I think the combination overall, I mean, this is an ultimate powerhouse, essentially. But there's, well, there's not just one. There are a few caveats to this, and this is where we're going to start getting into a few of the negatives here. The most obvious of those is going to be price, but I want to save that for last because there are a few other things you need to know going into this if you're going to buy an Origin PC online. You'll start off by selecting your favorite games and the resolution in which you intend to play them, and then they kind of just throw a system at you. And from here you can work your way up in specifications or down. That of course will affect price pretty drastically in my experience here on Origin. Also remember that Origin is owned again by Corsair, so you'll find several Corsair components here being offered: Corsair AIOs, Corsair memory, Corsair NVMEs, the works. I do wish there were a few more case selections. I also would like to see something, again, a bit more intuitive when it comes to selecting components, letting me know what is going to be worth the upgrade, what is not. There's nothing really walking you through those steps. If you're a first-time builder, you're probably just gonna select the thing that they throw at you at first, and the thing they threw at me was well over $4,000, which I thought was a bit high. Now, when I went to add this system to my cart, I noticed the price was significantly lower, by about $1,000, somewhere in the mid $3,000 range. I was wondering why there was such a big price disparity. Well, it turns out some of the components that I thought I was being thrown at were actually not included, or they were downgraded to other things in order to save some money. It might have just been a glitch, something with their website, probably a quick fix. But I had to go back and manually add things to, again, match what I was sent in person. But now we need to talk about price, and this is where things get pretty freaking dicey. So the system they threw at us, when I selected the games you can see down here at the bottom in 4K, is the Neuron, and it starts at around $4,500. Now you can change, again, components in here to either lower or even raise that price, but $4,500 just as a blanket price for the Neuron, the ultimate package, is a pretty tough pill to swallow. I mean, that's a solid vacation, folks. Like, you could go almost anywhere on planet Earth for at least a few days for $4,500. You might even be able to bring a partner with you, or maybe your kids even. That's a lot of money. And for a PC, I expect that it's just gonna be loaded with the top of the line stuff, maybe even 2 graphics cards for ultimate content creating workloads, who knows? The fact that there's only 1 terabyte worth of storage in here and a $4,500 system, I mean, yeah, that already kind of tells you where this is headed. And that there's only 32 gigs of RAM. Now for a gaming system, that's plenty, but again, a $4,500 system only having 32 gigs of RAM, that is another tough pill to swallow. And this is where I think a majority of the responsible party lies in the graphics card. The reason why the price is what it is because this card used to be a lot more expensive than you can currently buy it. And if Origin buys many of these in bulk ahead of time at a higher price, and prices are dropping, again, every other day, then they're kind of left hanging with more expensive components that they have to get out of inventory. And if they take huge losses on this stuff, then, you know, operating at a loss is never good for any business. I think that's why their prices, or one of the reasons why at least their prices, are a bit higher than I would like to see. Every other component in the build is pretty consistent in terms of price, but this card is not, especially the 3080 Ti. And it's just unfortunate that the system has to be a victim of this card's wonky price history. The warranty definitely leaves more to be desired. A 1-year part replacement with a 45-day shipping window, that's, again, a tough pill to swallow. I hate to use the same phrase over and over, but 1-year parts replacement is not stellar by any means. That's, I would say, maybe partially below the industry standard, unless you're buying from a very small boutique builder that maybe does like a 30 or 60-day warranty. They're just smaller. They're smaller scale, fewer workers. You can't really keep warranties for that long. They just tell you to default to the individual product warranties. Having only a 1-year umbrella from Origin, it's just, that doesn't really cut it for me. Where's the $1,000 going? And another thing, this 45-day free shipping term here, so this is the window for essentially the system to be built and then shipped. Remember that these are more or less built to order. You can, of course, change things. It's not like they have 100 of the exact same system sitting in a warehouse ready to be shipped. Because you can manually select parts, that's why that 45-day window exists. It's not like you could get this shipped overnight. You might be able to if you know somebody, and they'll probably charge you for it a pretty penny. But the standard 45-day window is not anything out of the ordinary, especially in high volume weeks, but it is something to consider because if you're spending $4,500, yeah, I mean, waiting a month plus to get the system could be a bit of a downside. So again, this is what I could build a system for, and I tried my best to match component for component what I got in the box. The Core i9, 12900K, $600 on Amazon. The H100i Elite, actually, we have an H150i in ours, so to be fair, this should go up a bit in price, maybe 50, 60 bucks or so. But it's nothing to really gawk at, because again, we're about $1,000 short. I even included a retail Windows 11 key for 120 bucks just to try to offset this overall price. Threw in a few LL120 fans as well. I'm not sure if they're QL or LL, but 100 bucks or so, because you do get some fans included with the 5000X, remember that. And that brings us to around $3,500. Again, around $1,000 short of what you'd be paying if you bought this direct from Origin. So let's recap then. There's obviously a lot that I really like about this. The selection of hardware, it just makes sense. Origin, again, has been doing this for a very long time, so it'd be pretty difficult for them to screw something pretty obvious up. Cable management is phenomenal. You can tell that they really spent a lot of time personalizing this build for this video. My only real issue, apart from arguably the website, which is that's a nitpick there, I'll admit. You'll probably find your way around just fine. I just feel like it could be a bit simpler. My only real nitpick is the price. And I feel like that one's justified because we could save a substantial amount of money building this exact system ourselves. $1,000, right? When seen in the context of what you could build this for, is a pretty hefty markup, roughly 25%. And it's just such a glaring issue that it makes it difficult for me to go out and just recommend that you shop on Origin's site. And you might find smaller margins with cheaper builds. That's usually the case, in fact. But I wanted them to send something that they felt really proud of, and there's a lot to be proud of here. Again, the cable management is like the best cable management I've ever seen in a system with 2, let alone 3 different hubs for RGB and fan control. But that obviously doesn't make up for the $1,000 difference. And that's why I can't recommend that you buy this pre-built, at least this one. Are there others on the site that are worth considering? Probably, but I can only really tell you, I can only give you my thoughts about what I have here in front of me. And as good as this is, this ain't it, Chief. Now with that said, prices are always fluid, and in a market where graphics cards are dropping in price by the day, it seems, which is great for us, we expect that the savings that Origin experiences on the distributor and the wholesale side will be passed down to the end user. It wouldn't make sense for them to keep their prices jacked up when all their competitors are trying to keep their prices as low as possible, because they'd be priced out of the market. No one would buy from Origin, they'd buy from NZXT BLD or iBuyPower, CyberPower, whoever. But if there's one thing I can say Origin definitely has an edge on over the competition, it's build quality. Again, the attention to detail here is top notch. It's not $1,000 difference, but I'd happily pay $50, $100 premium even in a pre-built scenario to have something built this good over something that's just kind of tossed together and shipped out like any other system on the market. Now, remember what I said about Corsair now owning Origin? That wasn't the case few months ago, but now they do, and they're still on the expansion track. So we've got a monitor here from Corsair. This isn't something that they've ever done before, and I just want to give you a feel for what a full Corsair setup looks like. Now obviously Corsair makes AIOs, keyboards, etc., but now that we can buy full-on PCs from a Corsair-owned company in Origin, I just want to show you what having a full Corsair setup looks like, including the monitor and of course peripherals as well, keyboard and mouse. We've got a headset, so actually I'll use my own Corsair headset just to throw it in there, might as well. But you can get an entire ecosystem of Corsair products now, and yeah, I just wanted to demonstrate that for you on camera. So this is what Corsair calls the Xeneon, like xenon and neon, I guess, combined, kind of a weird word. 32 QHD 165, pretty self-explanatory there. 32 inches, 165 hertz, and a 1440p resolution. It uses an IPS display, and it has AMD FreeSync built in, quantum dot technology as well, with 100% sRGB and Adobe RGB color space, so it's great for content creators. All that said, it is a fairly premium monitor, and it's also fairly expensive. The price reflects that. So it's not something that I should just say everyone should buy, because again, it does cost a pretty penny, but it is a pretty sweet monitor on that. And here we are, we have our wireless mouse from Corsair, our K70 keyboard from Corsair, our Origin PC build, our monitor from Corsair. It's a full setup. Even have an Origin mouse pad. Just a little extra something there. And I suppose I should also put on my Corsair headset. Here we are. Total Corsair fanboy. It is what it is, folks. If it's something that tickles your fancy, it's possible to do, and that's essentially what I wanted to show you here. The only, again, thing that I have to pivot back to is the price. Price is the, that's the tough pill to swallow. Again, for a third or fourth time, it's what I can't really get over, especially with the Origin PC build, $4,500, and on top of that, you only get a 1-year warranty for parts. It's just not enough in my book to whet the palate and get me to want to buy this. It doesn't make sense when I could build this for $1,000 less. It's a bit frustrating because I want to recommend this. It's a great pre-built in every other category except for what Origin wants for it. And that's kind of where I have to leave it. A few $100 over, sure, no problem, especially if you're getting free shipping tacked in. You get that mediocre 1-year parts warranty. You'll deal with Origin directly instead of individual manufacturers, which is nice, but only being a year long is just a bit lackluster. And then you get an extra peripheral. I noticed I could pick either a headset or a keyboard or a mouse with my purchase when I was speccing this system out. So that's cool, but not $1,000 cool. And if the 3080 Ti is to blame, then it's possible that cards that have been on the market a bit longer, maybe a 3070 or a 3080 unit, won't have such an exorbitant price hike as a result of something that's just been so topsy-turvy in the market lately. $2,000 plus a little over 6 months ago, and now you can find these for around $1,000. Yeah, I mean, you see where I'm coming from, right? I want to recommend this, and this isn't necessarily Origin's fault, because depending on when they ordered all of these, they could have been screwed the same way the end user would have back 6 months ago. But today, as it stands, I can't recommend it. Now there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a chance to win this exact system, of course with the graphics card in here, and it's going to be shipped via Origin PCs. Big shout out to them for at least allowing us to give something away. See, the issue that I ran into with this, bit of ethics involved here, because they sent this to me. They didn't pay for the video, but obviously these parts have values, and I don't sell anything. I give stuff away all the time, but I don't sell components like these. I don't go to eBay. Like, I'm not gonna go to eBay and sell this. This is actually one of the only 3080 Ti's I have, so I'm gonna be keeping it just for recursive testing and maybe future builds. But I don't sell this stuff, so it's not like I can feed my family with PC parts. It's just not how it works. So in that sense, I'm not being paid for this, but there is inherent value here, a lot of inherent value, and especially this component. And no matter how I try to spin it, folks are always gonna see that as a bit of a blemish on an otherwise independent review. I get that, and so the way to kind of make up for that a tad was to get Origin to let us give one of these away. And so that's why I'm very thankful for them for allowing us to you know, not only make the video, it allows us to create content for the channel, but it also allows us to give back to the community a bit. And this is going to be limited to the 50 US states. That's the only other downside here. We tried our best to make this global. It's just going to cost way too much to ship this, package it correctly because it's very heavy. It's going to get held up somewhere in customs in some country, and you'll be spending in excess of $1,000, well over $1,000 if you do it the way you're supposed to get this into any other country across any border. So it is what it is, but if you do live in the 50 states, you have a chance to win it, and you can enter the giveaway, again, thanks to Origin PCs, via the link in this video's description. Hopefully whoever wins it will put it to very good use. It's a powerhouse of a system, that is for sure. If you enjoyed this one, give it a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Remember to enter the giveaway if you're eligible, and stay tuned for the next video. My name is Greg, thanks for learning with me.